Hello, welcome to 8.9 News. I'm ffinlo Costain. Yesterday, we reported on research by Community Land Scotland that calls into question a £20 billion funding gap in the financing of Scotland's nature recovery. The shortfall was first identified by the Green Finance Institute in 2021. Now, Scotland's Nature Agency has published its response to the Community Land Scotland research. NatureScot says that it accepts that the scale of the shortfall identified by the Green Finance Institute may be an overestimate. Brendan Turvey is the low-carbon manager for NatureScot. I asked him just how big the shortfall is currently estimated to be.
Yeah, so the Scottish Government has commissioned some further work to develop a more refined estimate for the cost of nature restoration in Scotland. This is difficult to do as the costs are very variable and are changing all the time. So, for example, due to increased labour and material costs, those costs are steadily increasing over time. So any estimate will be just that. It's an estimate of costs. But we do recognise that we need a better estimate to inform our thinking, and we anticipate that that revised figure will be somewhere around about £10 billion, but we need to see more detailed analysis to confirm that. But what's important from an NatureScot point of view is that there is a shortfall, and whatever that figure is, we need to find new ways to bring private investment into nature restoration in Scotland, and we need to do that quickly.
So why is the public purse unable to fund Scotland's nature recovery? And what are the advantages of attracting and deploying private finance?
Yeah, so the public finances are under acute pressure, as I think many people recognise, following the COVID pandemic and the economic downturn. So as a result of that, there simply isn't enough public budget to pay for all of the nature restoration activity that we need to do to get to net zero and to reverse biodiversity loss. So, for example, we've estimated the cost of restoring all of our degraded peatlands at between £3 and £4 billion, and we currently have a budget available of 250 million. So there's a gap. So increasing private investment is one way of helping to fill that gap. Turning to your second question, I think there's 4 key advantages of attracting private investment. The first is it can help increase the pace and scale of restoration activity, which is what we need to do to hit our targets. The second is it can allow public funding to be reassigned to other funding priorities, or indeed targeted to projects which are difficult to attract private finance for. The third is it can bring long-term funding and a contractual requirement to maintain the restored habitats in good condition for a very long period of time. And then the final one is that up to a point, it means that the polluter will pay for carbon sequestration rather than the taxpayer.
I'm interested because there is sometimes discussed an ethical challenge around the idea of businesses, of private finance making that investment. And I wonder what you think about that in terms of, the role of society, whether we should always expect to have funding from government or whether it's right, actually, that business makes its own contribution.
I think it's a good question. We all have a part to play, whether it's in our personal lives, the decisions we make, in how we travel ourselves, where we take our holidays, but also in the businesses that operate in this country. We've all got a part to play to get to net zero. We can't just point our finger at businesses and say, you should do all of it, or vice versa. We all need to contribute. So that's about changing decisions that we take, but it's also about changing what we pay for and how we pay for them. So from our point of view, the private sector has a role to play, an important role to play, in helping to pay to get to net zero.
So what steps are currently being taken to engage Scottish communities to ensure that they benefit from private investment and continue to support long-term nature recovery?
Not enough. So I think we recognise and agree with the concerns of Community Land Scotland and others that communities are not fully engaged in this process at the moment. So to deliver a just transition to net zero, we do need to change that. And we're now working with Community Land Scotland to try and discuss solutions. So just yesterday, we held a workshop with a wide range of contributors, including Community Land Scotland, where we agreed to start to develop and test a new standard for community engagement and empowerment in private investment projects. And we very much look forward to continuing that dialogue.
Now, there's already a requirement for private companies to consult with the general public when they're investing in land, and there's going to be land use change. What would you like to see beyond that? What additional would you like to see?
So I think we need to move beyond consultation to a genuine process of engagement and empowerment, whereby rather than just asking communities what they think about a project, we actually start a conversation with the community about what they want to get out of it, what land use change they seek, but also how they can benefit from that land use change, whether that's a financial benefit, having a stake in the project, or other means from which they can benefit from that land use change.
In your view, are there aspects of Scotland's nature recovery that are particularly suited to private funding and then others that just aren't suitable at all?
Some things will be difficult to fund. So, for example, the removal of invasive non-native species like rhododendron is critical to reversing biodiversity loss and allowing habitats like a rainforest to thrive. And this is likely to be difficult to fund using private finance. So there will always be a role for public funding to pay for some of those things. And in some circumstances, it may be less appropriate to use private funding, such as where a conflict of interest arise or where excessive profits may be generated. But in general, we view the use of private finance as being complementary to public funding, and a blended approach which carefully mixes those two is likely to be the best way forward until the market fully matures.
That was Brendan Turvey from NatureScot. More about this and our other headline news on our website, 8.9.com. That's all for now. We're back next week. Thanks for watching.